I'm Eric Parker. This morning on CT23, former Connecticut Senator Joe Lieberman's organization, No Labels, is getting national attention as we head toward the next presidential election. He'll join us. On July 1st, the town of Montville began operating its own independent police force. The first chief of that force will tell us how it's going and why they made the switch. And this year's weather, including all those flooding rains, are creating real problems for Connecticut's crops. The head of the Connecticut Farm Bureau gives us a reality check on what farmers are facing and how it will impact all of us. It's all ahead this Sunday, July 23rd. CT23 starts right now.
From Channel 3, CT23 with Eric Parker.
Good morning. Next November 5th, we will elect our next president. Since Ulysses S. Grant, way back in 1869, that job has gone to a member of either the Republican Party, to which Grant belonged, or to a Democrat. But do these times call for a third-party candidate for president? We're putting that question to former U.S. Senator Joseph Lieberman, who served the people of Connecticut in Washington from 1989 to 2013. He's one of the people behind a bipartisan group called No Labels. Senator, thanks for joining us here on CT23.
Thanks, Eric. Great to be back on CT23 and Channel 3.
Well,
it's home.
It is. It's good to have you. So when I do these interviews, Senator, I try to read as much about the topic as I can. And every article I read had the same word in it, dissatisfied. Whether you were saying it or one of the commentators was saying it. Is that what has led you down this path?
Yeah. I mean, this was started actually driven by a woman named Nancy Jacobson, but a group of us joined her 13 years ago. And it was a reaction to the increasing partisanship in Congress in Washington that was making it hard for us to get anything accomplished for our country and our constituents. So we formed a group. Ultimately, we were able to be effective by supporting moderate or centrist candidates for Congress in both the Republican and Democratic parties. And they really worked together to help accomplish some of the biggest things that have been done in the last 5 or 6 years, like the infrastructure bill, some of the COVID-19 responses, and the end of the debt ceiling crisis. But our members around the country, and there's hundreds of thousands of them now, who are really fed up with the failure of the two major parties to work together for the country, have asked us to get involved in the presidential election. We never did it before. And we started by announcing big day last Monday in New Hampshire, our common sense policy agenda, which are 30 ideas, which are, you won't find a platform of either the Republicans or Democrats like this, because it's not an us or them. It's we, the people. It's trying to propose ideas that members of both parties told us in conversations with them all around the country that they could support to solve some of our biggest problems. So we're also involved in what we call a ballot access project. We're trying to qualify for a third line in every state in the U.S. in case we decide that we can play a constructive role by doing exactly what you referred to historically, running a bipartisan unity ticket, giving the American people a third choice, because it's pretty clear that not only have they lost confidence in the two major parties, 60 to 70% of the American people are not happy that they're going to have to choose between President Trump and President Biden again.
Well, I want to get back to what you said, in case, because I think that's important, because there's a big asterisk next to this effort. But I want to ask you first, you talked about some, legislation, and we've had examples on this show, even the gun reform legislation. It was a bipartisan effort. They got to a place where Republicans and Democrats could get something through. It wasn't just jammed down anyone's throat. But isn't that different, working across the aisle, than putting together a bipartisan third-party ticket? Doesn't this take that effort, and something you were famous for, willing to leave your party if you felt it was the right thing to do? But isn't this different when you put a third line on the ticket?
That's a really good question, and it is different. Frankly, I'm surprised that No Labels and I are actually involved in this, because our mission has always been to try to get the two parties to work together to get something done. But I think we and our members around the country are just so, you used the word disappointed, I'd say frustrated, some are angry that the two political parties are basically dominated by extremes within each party, and it leaves the vast middle of the American people unrepresented. There was a recent Gallup poll that showed that 49% of the American people now identify themselves as independents, the highest number ever, and that's larger than the total that say they're Republicans or Democrats, or a few that said that they were neither or none. This is a kind of warning to the two major parties that, and it's really an appeal to them: come back towards the center, come back to working together with each other to try to find solutions to our biggest problems.
Well, you've said, Senator, you've said that if it looks like the third party will decide this, either draw a lot of votes away from, as you said, probably Biden or Trump, one of the two sides, that you won't get into the race. But just by doing this effort, haven't you de facto affected the race, even if you don't officially run a candidate? And is it just affecting the race, or do you have to have a viable path to 270 in the Electoral College before you'll put up a candidate?
Yeah, well, Eric, actually, we hope that we're affecting the race already. I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans, particularly the Democrats, have been attacking us. And that means that they're worried about what impact we're going to have. And our word to them is, hey, instead of attacking us, why don't you figure out how you can send out a different message to the voters that you're going to be willing to work with the other party to try to get something done for the country, because that's what the voters really want. So we hope that just in what we're doing now, we will affect one or both of the major parties. We don't really want to run a third ticket. We certainly don't want to create a third party, but we will if the two parties continue on the path they're on now, which is to spend most of their time fighting each other instead of figuring out how to work together to fix America's problems. We need that to happen.
There was an article last month in Mother Jones, which certainly has a political tilt to it, but it identified, they said they'd seen a list of 36 of no labels supporters, and that they tended to be conservative, many corporate. Who's behind this effort, and do you think it's important for voters to know?
Well, we who started it are behind it. The co-chairs with me are great people. Larry Hogan was a Republican centrist governor of Maryland, Pat McCrory, a Republican centrist governor of North Carolina, and Dr. Ben Chavis, a leader in the civil rights movement, Democrat, worked closely with Dr. Martin Luther King. So we're a very broad-based group. We are raising money. We're a 501c4, like every other 501c4, including a lot of the groups that are attacking us now. We don't disclose our contributors because they'd probably be subject to harassment, which seems to happen so easily in our politics today. But I do want to make clear that if we run a third party ticket, then that'll be a normal political campaign. It won't be no labels doing it. It'll be a separate new political campaign, and everything, all the dollars they raise and how they spend them will be totally public. I mean, the Supreme Court has said in cases like this, where you're doing the kind of political work we are now, you have a constitutional right not to disclose your contributors. In a campaign, it's quite different.
Well, I know you said spring of next year is when you're likely to make a decision. We saw Ross Perot got 8 million votes. That was a long time ago. Things are certainly different in the political climate. So you said at the beginning you hadn't been on in a while. The good news is you're going to make this decision next spring, so we'll have to have you back. Senator Joe Lieberman and the No Labels group, we appreciate you being here, telling us about it, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks, Eric. I look forward to it, too. Have a good Sunday.
You too.
Take care.
This year's weather has certainly presented a number of challenges for local farmers. But what does it mean for crops? Things like corn, squash, peaches, apples. The president of the Connecticut Farm Bureau will tell us all about that. That's coming up in our Sunday Spotlight. But up next, one Connecticut town is launching a brand new police department. We're hearing from Montville's chief when we come back right after this.